introduce you to Erik Finman. He's one of the youngest Bitcoin millionaires in the world. He joins me from New York City. Erik, good to have you on the program. Appreciate you coming on. I know you've told your story a few times, but tell our audience, who likely hasn't heard it before, how you became a Bitcoin millionaire.
Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. It's glad to be on. So yeah, how I became, I think, one of the youngest Bitcoin millionaires in the world. So when I was very young, I got into Bitcoin. It was definitely something I was very passionate about. I came from a little bit of a political family, so that's where we heard about it. I was like in the middle of a protest. I was getting tear gassed, and that's why I think why I need glasses now. This is where I heard about Bitcoin, and I got super into it. Started a business that kind of involved Bitcoin, and eventually sold that business also for Bitcoin. So I've been a part of it for a long time and have made a pretty good amount of money off of it so far.
And I understand your initial investment was like $1,000.
Yeah. So I got a $1,000 check from my grandmother that was supposed to go into my scholarship fund, and then instead I put it into Bitcoin.
Geez, Erik, that was a bit of a risk. But what's interesting, in all seriousness, you talk about how you were involved in a protest and you heard about cryptocurrency. In many ways, Bitcoin can be seen as sort of a counterculture financial tool, an anti-big government, anti-bank, anti-financial institution form of paying for things. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd say Bitcoin is definitely very anti-Wall Street and anti all that for sure.
The problem is it's so gosh darn volatile that it scares investors away, except for the ones who perhaps like yourself are very young and don't have much to lose or have a stomach of steel.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bitcoin is seen as an investment in a lot of ways, and it is, but I think the main use of it is a currency. And I think that's what people are forgetting, and also a problem that needs to be solved, because you can actually solve those problems, all the volatility, and maybe it'd be less of an investment, but be a better currency. You can generate, let's say someone start a new coin, call it new coin. You could create, the way that you stop the volatility is you create so much supply, so maybe 200 billion coins, and that's how you would fix it. But with Bitcoin, there's just a max of 21 million coins, which is what makes the price so volatile. And it's something that the Bitcoin community definitely needs to solve. And also needs more real-world applications of it to actually be used as a currency. But I have very high hopes that that will happen in the cryptocurrency space.
Is that right? You know, you talk about how a new form of currency similar to Bitcoin needs to kind of emerge from the ashes. But every day I was reading there are dozens of new quote-unquote cryptocurrencies coming on board. How do you know they're safe? How do you know they're sustainable? How do you know you're not going to lose the shirt off your back?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bitcoin, I think, is probably the safest out of all of them, of cryptocurrencies you can invest in. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot of altcoins, as they call them, coming out that are a little bit sketchy, and some are good. But again, it's such a fresh space that it's hard to know. You know, like in the .com era, you had pets.com, which did not go well, but you also had Amazon.com, and that went really well. And that's kind of where we are. And I haven't seen any coin yet. I think some are coming along the way that solve these problems, but I haven't seen any coin yet that really solves the volatility issues. So you make sure you don't lose the shirt on your back, and actually is practical as a currency.
Yeah, I've heard it described as the Wild West. This is sort of a new...
Very much is.
A new genre, a new technology, a new everything. And so as an investor like yourself, when do you start to feel nervous?
I think the only way that Bitcoin will be taken down is if you make something better. And either that might be Bitcoin just being upgraded, an alternative to Bitcoin, or something like that. That's the only time I would ever get worried about Bitcoin. But cryptocurrency as a whole, this whole space is absolutely here to stay. And right now, where the internet was, because it's such a great technology, where the internet was in the 80s, not the 90s, but the 80s. And there's so much new technology that will come out, and so much new things that make it mainstream. I think that's where cryptocurrency is headed, and maybe that's Bitcoin still is the leader in front of that all, or maybe it's not. But somehow it needs to be addressed, it needs to be fixed. But I'm not really worried. Cryptocurrency is absolutely here to stay.
It's fascinating talking to you. I wish we had more time, but I want to ask you this: if you had $1,000 today, the way you did back in whenever it was your grandmother gave you that $1,000, would you still invest it in Bitcoin?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff, Erik. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Nice chatting with you.